In the endless twilight between creation and destruction, where gods are forged and empires crumble, there exists a figure feared by all, a legend shrouded in shadow, a judge at the end of all things, Death. Eldest amongst the dreaded Four Horsemen, Death is the blade in the darkness, the last word at the end of all things. Today, you will hear his story in all its depth and darkness. I am Vigil, and this is Video Game Lore. Prepare yourself. Today, we journey through the origins, saga, and powers of Death, the Pale Rider, leaving out nothing, forging every moment and every name into the legend he truly is. Before the Horsemen, there was Lilith. With forbidden sorcery, she sculpted the first Nephilim from the mingled dust of angels and demons. Absalom was her first, a being not born, but cast and molded through rituals that spat in the face of natural law. From Absalom, and through Lilith's continued castings, the firstborn generation emerged, Death among them, his essence woven from chaos and raw power. The Nephilim were a race unlike any other, bloodthirsty and immortal. Their only drive was conquest. The firstborn, like Death, were both their champions and their curse. Beings of godlike physical strength, arcane mastery, and a cruelty that mirrored the war between their angelic and demon halves. Their instability made them both nearly invulnerable and deeply flawed. Even among these titans, Death was unique. Alone among his kin, he was a craftsman, a creator in a race of destroyers. He forged the Nephilim's most infamous weapons, including his signature shape-shifting scythe, Harvester, a weapon that could become twin blades, gauntlets, hammers, hooks, and more, all wrought from infernal metals and bound to Death's will, able to be summoned across realities at a thought. He was the closest thing the Nephilim had to a maker. Under Absalom's leadership, the Nephilim swept across the cosmos, world after world, falling to their endless war. Their first victims were the Nephilim, ancient old ones, older even than the makers, who sculpted their own bodies into living tools, merging flesh, sinew, and bone with their creations. When the Nephilim annihilated the Nephilim, Death, tormented by the mounting horror, proposed a radical escalation, using the Nephilim's unique biology to forge the Grand Abominations. These were not mere weapons, but sentient world-ending arsenals, pistols such as Black Mercy, making any wound fatal, bucklers like Mortis, siege engines such as Earthreaver, and many more, each a grotesque fusion of Nephilim cadavers and Nephilim metal, pulsing with malevolent consciousness, linked telepathically, and filled with undying hatred for all creation. Only the firstborn knew the true key to unleashing them, the blood of the Nephilim themselves. Yet even the Nephilim recoiled from the Grand Abominations, finding them too treacherous to wield, prone to turning on their users. Death and his closest kin sealed most of them in the Abomination Vault, a hidden pocket dimension accessed only through a portal on the now ruined Nephilim homeworld. A realm now poisoned and corrupted, fouler than hell itself. A few weapons were lost on battlefields like Cathysos, but were deemed too dangerous to recover. This act, while born of pragmatism, deepened Death's guilt, foreshadowing his eventual schism from the Nephilim. The Nephilim continued their rampage, ravaging countless worlds in their quest for a home, but Death grew weary of the endless slaughter. Driven by shame and a desire for redemption, he approached the Charred Council, ancient arbiters tasked with upholding the balance. The council saw opportunity in Death's plea and chose 3 other Nephilim, not of the firstborn, War, Fury, and Strife, to join them. But their power would only be granted if they tamed the mystical horses of the far fields. The 4 Nephilim sought out the Horsemaster, a being whose darkness rivaled even Death's. The Horsemaster demanded they discard their weapons and prove themselves worthy. While War, Strife, and Fury bickered, Death leapt into the ravine, facing the stampede alone. Swallowed by the herd, he emerged riding the spirit beast Despair, now transformed into a pale skeletal steed. The Horsemaster acknowledged Death's will, and the others soon followed, each taming their own mount, mayhem, rampage, and ruin. Now empowered as the Four Horsemen, they became the Council's enforcers. Their first mission, to annihilate the Nephilim at Eden, who were attempting to seize paradise from humanity, the Third Kingdom. The Horsemen, alongside Heaven's armies, led by Abaddon, Astarte, and Azrael, descended upon Eden. Death, now clad in his executioner's mask, fought with merciless fury, absorbing the souls of his kin into an amulet he had crafted. On the blood-soaked plains, Absalom confronted Death, demanding to know why he would slay his own kind. Absalom's agony was that every race in creation had a realm but the Nephilim, Death replied simply, Eden belongs to the kingdom of man. Their battle was titanic, scythe clashing against blade, ending when Death drove his weapon through Absalom's chest. As Absalom reached out for help, black corruption engulfed him, dragging him into Eden's dirt. Death trapped the remaining Nephilim souls in his amulet, refusing the council's order to destroy it. Instead, he entrusted it to the Crow Father, binding the crow dust to himself, thus linking their fates. After that day, Death rarely removed his mask. He alone knew the true location of the Abomination Vault and bore the memories of kinslaying that would haunt him forever. Sometime after Eden, War disobeyed the council, unleashing his power on an unknown world and slaughtering countless inhabitants. Death and the other horsemen intervened after War killed an army of assailants. Death ordered War back to the council, but War refused, attacking his siblings and nearly killing Fury with Chaos Eater. Death stepped in, taking the blade through his chest and then severing Worm's left arm with the harvester, demanding War learn his wisdom. Eventually, War calmed down and they returned to the council together. A millennium before the premature apocalypse, Death withdrew from the cosmos, building a home on a dead world of endless dust and ash. His solitude was short-lived. The council sent the Watcher Panoptos to him, demanding he investigate a skirmish between angels and an unknown enemy at Eden's border. At Eden, Death found little sign of battle. Using necromancy, he summoned the spirit of a dead angel, learning the attackers were constructs, artificial beings, overwhelming the angels until Abaddon himself intervened. Death's inquiry was interrupted by angry angels. Their hidden presence was due to an illusion cast by Azrael, who then revealed the angels' true purpose, to guard Eden, abandoned by the council. Abaddon, Azrael, and Death discussed an alliance to uncover the perpetrators. When Death learned Abaddon had lost his eye to the Nephilim sword affliction, he became deeply concerned about what other ancient weapons might have been stolen from the dead worlds. Death next journeyed to Cathisos, the site of the Nephilim's fiercest battle. There, constructs excavated the battlefield. Searching for Nephilim weapons, Death found evidence they had recovered a lost Grand Abomination. Dust, his crow, fell into a fit, sending Death a vision of the Crowfather's realm under siege. Death rushed to the icy domain of the Crowfather, sneaking and fighting through a battlefield where constructs battled endless flocks of crows and the elements themselves. Death and the Crowfather combined their powers to repel the constructs. The Crowfather placed the soul of a dying crow into a construct, mingling it with the construct's memories. Death's necromancy revealed that Belisatra, a maker and former apprentice to Gulbanin, was behind the attacks and sought to awaken the Grand Abominations. Death reported to the council, warning them of the Abomination Vault's danger, but refusing to reveal its location. The council, recognizing his value, sent the horsemen to investigate, but Death insisted War, Fury, and Strife stay behind. Before leaving, Death visited the Keeper of Oblivion, unburdening his guilt over the abominations. The Crowfather then sent a vision revealing an angel, Hadramon, as Belisatra's ally. Death traveled to the Argent Spire and the White City, seeking records on Belisatra. He was met with hostility due to War's past massacre, but convinced the guards to let him through. There, he was attacked by Semyaza, Hadramon, who impaled him with affliction. War intervened and Semyaza fled. The pair then met with Abaddon and Azrael, piecing together the links between Belisatra, Gulbanin, and Lilith. Death confronted Lilith in Hell, where she alluded to her role as mother to the Nephilim. She admitted Belisatra had killed Gulbanin and was now working with Hadramon. Death and War stormed Lilith's old laboratory, fighting Hadramon and Belisatra, but a demon horde intervened, allowing the pair to escape. Death recovered Mortis, a Grand Abomination, but left his mind open, inadvertently revealing the secret of their activation to Hadramon. Death and War then traveled to the Ravalim homeworld, the site of the Abomination Vault. Dust summoned Azrael and his angels, who joined the Horsemen. They fought Belisatra's constructs and a demonic horde led by the lost angel Raziel. Returning to the council, Death and War learned that Belisatra and Hadramon had attacked an angelic outpost with Black Mercy. Death guessed they had cannibalized Earthreaver to fuel the weapon. The council, frustrated by Death's insolence, tortured him, but War intervened, demanding they kill him as well if they killed his brother. The council relented, and Death and War were assigned to guard the vault, while Fury and Strife hunted the conspirators. Dust was sent to Azrael, who tricked Raziel's forces into attacking the vault. Belisatra's constructs attacked, followed by Hadramon with Black Mercy and Belisatra with a massive cannon. Raziel's demons joined the fray, Death shattered the vault's ward, hoping the Abomination's psychic presence would overwhelm Hadramon, but Black Mercy fired at Death, nearly killing him. Raziel, wounded, entered the chamber, only to be killed by Black Mercy. Azrael's illusion of Raziel distracted Hadramon, giving Death time to recover and slay the angel. Outside, Belisatra, fighting war, surrendered upon seeing Black Mercy in Death's hand. The vault was secured, and Death resolved to keep Mortis as a weak relic, returning Black Mercy to the vault. Death confronted Panoptos, accusing the Watcher of orchestrating the attacks to free himself from the Council's control. Death promised to be waiting when Panoptos made a mistake and went to give his report. Centuries before the apocalypse, Death entered the White City at Abaddon's invitation. Abaddon tested him in combat, then revealed a demon had infiltrated Earth, killing humans. Death asked why he should care, but Abaddon insisted this was for the balance. Death reminded him that he had no council sanction, and that without it, his size would be powerless. Abaddon told Death to seek out Vulgrim, who, for a price, would provide a way around that problem. Arriving at the River Styx, Death waded through the agony of countless lost souls to find Vulgrim. The demon greeted him with interest, demanding a prize: the tongue of the Leviathan, a beast that bathed in the suffering of the dead. Death lured the Leviathan, cut out his tongue, and returned to Vulgrim, who in turn gave him the weapon he needed. Death then sought out the Horsemaster to open a serpent hole to Earth, unsanctioned by the Council. The Horsemaster agreed, warning Death that when the Council is angry, it's always the Earth that suffers. Death arrived in Marseilles, France, in the year 1722. The city was in ruins, corpses stretching as far as the eye could see. Death could not sense the demon, but saw a corrupted human killing another. He transformed into his Reaper form and slew the human, finding a Vorpal blade necklace on the body. As he walked through the devastated city, Death mused on the darkness that had become Earth's fulcrum. Suddenly, Death blocked a spinning Vorpal blade, an attack from the supposed demon he was hunting, which turned out to be an angel. Death spoke her name in an ancient tongue and gave chase as she fled through the city. When he finally caught her, she stood before a crowd of corrupted humans and declared that Death was the cause of their suffering. The mob attacked, and Death fought them off, realizing Abaddon had knowingly sent him to kill an angel. Death continued in his pursuit, cutting down many more corrupted humans along the way. He reflected that it was not the first angel he had killed, though he had mostly fought alongside them as a horseman. He wondered why the Creator had set Earth on such a twisted fulcrum, swaying endlessly toward death. The angel appeared before him in a blazing light, killing another human. She told Death that the Council's vision must be vast if they sent him to Earth for her. Death replied that the Council did not know he was there. Abaddon had sent him. The angel laughed, saying Abaddon was obsessed with protecting the White City, but blind to the true sickness which lay on Earth. She declared that humanity was faithless and lacked goodness. The heaven grew weak as fewer humans favored the light, and that she was the cure, purifying them. She said she had banished the good in herself so that good could prevail in the universe, revealing she had fought beside the horsemen in Eden, her name, Makhala. She hurled her Vorpal blade at Death, which ricocheted from him. She charged, shouting that Death would die, as a black substance spewed from her mouth out into the ground. Death asked her what she had done. Makhala told him her eyes had been opened, that she realized she had been infecting everyone but herself. After slaughtering many angelic soldiers, the whispers in her head told her to come to Earth and save humanity. She kissed a human, filling him with corruption, and declared she would save them all. Death fought Makhala, getting no answers. He realized the Vorpal blade talismans protected those who wore them and infected those who did not. He killed Makhala, but mused that to get any answers, he would have to visit an old friend. Before leaving, Death noticed that the corruption ebbed when the angel was killed, but would return, and next time, he would be ready. As he departed, we see a close-up of Makhala's eyes as they snapped open, completely black, writhing with corruption, reviving her corpse and sending her into other realms to consume and corrupt. Roughly 500 years after the tragedy of Marseilles, when War was accused by the Charred Council of starting the apocalypse prematurely and imprisoned, Death could not accept his brother's fate. War, the most honorable of the four, could not possibly be guilty. Death resolved to find a way to save his brother and erase the stain of his supposed crime. Unknown to the Council, Death journeyed to the ice-covered realm known as the Veil. Seeking the Crowfather, the enigmatic keeper of secrets, the path to the Crowfather was fraught with peril. Death battled through waves of ice skeletons and toppled an immense ice giant as he climbed the treacherous spire. At the summit, Death confronted the Crowfather and demanded his aid in proving War's innocence. The Crowfather, at the edge of madness, at first refused, questioning why he should care. Death pressed on, arguing the Old One's secrets could resurrect humanity itself. The Crowfather finally revealed that the key to War's redemption lay within the Tree of Life, and opened a portal for Death to traverse. But before Death could enter the portal, the Crowfather snapped it closed. The Crowfather transforms into a vision of War and battles his brother. As the two crash blades, Death comes out victorious. The Crowfather, now back in his normal form, gets impaled by Death. As he throws him to the ground, his amulet flies off and explodes, casting pieces and shards into Death's chest. The Crowfather curses Death. As he fades, a portal surrounds them both. The Crowfather disappears as Death falls into the portal. When Death awoke, he found himself in the Forge Lands, with the elder Idard of the Makers standing over him. Death questioned Idard about the tree, but the Maker explained their world was drowning in corruption that threatened to obliterate the tree and all his people. The conversation was cut short by an assault of corrupted constructs. Death dispatched them, and Idard thanked him, but warned that corruption could not be vanquished by sword alone. Only by restoring the fire of the mountain and the tears of the Stonefather could the forge be reawakened and the path to the tree be opened. Idard sent Death to Alia, the Maker who knew the fire. At Tristone, Death met Thane, brother to the legendary Maker Ulthane, and challenged him to a duel. After a fierce battle, Thane acknowledged Death's strength and tasked him to prove himself further by hunting beings like Gorwood, Baethir, Argul, and Echidna. Death spoke to the shaman Miria, who asked for his help in gathering items for her talismans, and then to Alia, who requested Death's aid in forging the key for the Guardian, the Maker's ultimate weapon against corruption. The first step was to restore the fire of the mountain, sealed within the cauldron. On his journey, Death encountered the demon merchant Volgrim, who offered his wares in exchange for souls. In the cauldron, Death joined forces with Karn, a young Maker, to fight through corrupted constructs. Karn asked Death to recover his journeyman's piece, a small platter, his last crafted work. Death battled through the fiery depths, slew the corrupted construct Garn, and unsealed the fire, restoring magma to Tristone's forge. Alia, overjoyed, gave Death his next task, to restore the Stonefather's tears in the Drench Fort. Alia tells Death where to locate the Drench Fort, and before he leaves, she hands him Redemption, one of his brother Strife's legendary weapons. Death delved into the fort, vanquished Karkinos, and restored the tears, bringing pure waters back to the forge. Returning to Tristone, Death reported to Thane and Karn, both of whom acknowledged his growing legend. Elia and Valis, the silent Maker, forged the Maker's key to awaken the Guardian. Idard, now frail, entrusted the key to Death and described the Guardian's resting place in the Lost Temple. Death journeyed through the Lost Temple, defeated the Construct Hulk, and used the key to awaken the Warden, the mighty construct who could open the path to the Foundry. Karn insisted on joining Death, and together they braved the Foundry's dangers, collecting Heartstones to complete the Guardian. But one Heartstone was already tainted, and upon completion, the Guardian turned on its makers, rampaging across the land. Idard confronted the corrupted Guardian, but was wounded. Death defeated the monstrous construct, and Idard, using the last of his soul, purified the Guardian and resurrected it so it could destroy the corrupted growth blocking the Tree of Life. Idard died, and the Guardian sacrificed itself, hammering the path open. Before departing, Death fulfilled Miria the shaman's request, seeking out and destroying her failed construct Gorn. He helped Orin, the ancient construct, recover his lost limbs, and the Maker's Chronicle, the ancient book containing the Maker's entire history. Death's compassion and strength earned him the respect, if not the friendship, of the Makers. With the corruption dispatched, Death entered the Tree of Life. But the moment he approached, he was dragged inside by corruption itself. Within that portal, Death was confronted by a mysterious, shadow-cloaked being who challenged Death's purpose and worth. The being lambasted Death for seeking to resurrect humans, and accused him of annihilating the Nephilim. In a shock of recognition, Death realized this was none other than Absalom, the first Nephilim, slain by Death at Eden, and now the living avatar of corruption. Passing through the portal, Death found himself in the kingdom of the dead. There he met Ostagoth, a merchant of a long-dead race, who instructed him to seek the Well of Souls if he wished to resurrect mankind. To find the well, Death needed the help of the dead king, ruler of the eternal throne. Death ventured into the layers of each dead lord. Pharisir resisted, forcing Death to battle him into submission. Judicator, overwhelmed by the souls seeking judgment, agreed to join Death if he could recover 3 lost souls. Death succeeded, and Judicator pledged himself. Basilius, accompanied by the monstrous spider Echidna, demanded Death survive the Psychomeron, a gauntlet of undead and horrors. Death triumphed, killed Echidna, and battered Basilius into compliance. With all three dead lords returned to the eternal throne, the dead king executed them for their failures, then directed death to the city of the dead, where the wailing host, a monstrous amalgam of souls, barred the way to the well of souls. Death slew the host and encountered the Crowfather's ghost, who revealed that the well could only be accessed with two keys, one held by angels and one by demons. To reach the angelic key, Death traveled to Lost Light, the realm of the angels, and met Nathaniel, an angelic warrior he had once saved at Eden. Nathaniel directed Death to the Archon, who claimed the angelic key was lost within the Ivory Citadel, now overtaken by corruption. The Archon explained that only the Rod of Araphel could purify the Citadel, but it had been shattered and lost to Earth during the End War. Death traveled to a ruined Earth, where undead humans attacked the Hellguard, led by Uriel. Death aided Uriel and the Hellguard, then retrieved the 3 pieces of the Rod of Araphel from the demon-infested city. Uriel, grateful yet still untrusting, warned Death about the Destroyer. Death returned to Lost Light, where the Archon used the rod to cleanse the Citadel, but ultimately revealed his own corruption. Death defeated the Archon, claimed the angelic key, and learned that the Archon's madness stemmed from learning Abaddon's true fate as the Destroyer. Death then traveled to Shadow's Edge, where Ostagoth revealed that the demon Samael held the second key. The realm, once Samael's fortress, was now in ruins under the rule of the Mad Queen Lilith. Death confronted Lilith, who admitted creating Absalom and the Nephilim, and challenged Death to finish what he had started. She granted Death the Phase Walker, upgrading his Void Walker to allow him to time travel. Using the Phase Walker, Death returned to the past, faced Samael, and after a titanic duel, earned the Demon Key. But before continuing, Death carried out a favor for Nathaniel, delivering a scroll to the Chancellor in the Kingdom of the Dead. The Chancellor, recognizing the ancient name on the scroll, revealed cryptically that this soul was now known as Lord, a name Death would later confirm belonged to Abaddon, now the Destroyer. Ostagoth then summoned Death to Argul's tomb, an icy realm cast out by the Lord of Bones. There, Death destroyed Frostbane, an ice dragon created by Argul's will, and returned to Ostagoth. Passing through the portal at the Tree of Life, Death was cast into the Shadow Realm, a prison deep within the tree. There, the Mad Smith, a maker, begged Death to destroy the Abyssal Forge, a construct that threatened all creation. Death collected Chaos Ore so that the Mad Smith could craft a device, allowing Death to reach and destroy the Forge's Heartstone. In a battle of will and might, Death succeeded, sparing the Mad Smith, and returned to the portal. Back on Earth, Death heard rumors of human survivors, and encountered a lone hunter who revealed he had betrayed his kind to the demon lord Belial, believing Belial had his soul. Death confronted and slew Belial, then returned to the hunter, who, racked with guilt, begged for Death. Death obliged, granting the only mercy he could. With both keys, Death returned to the Well of Souls. There, at the threshold, he was confronted by Absalom, now the living avatar of corruption. Absalom taunted Death for his betrayal, his guilt, and challenged him to a final battle. The two clashed in a storm of fury and vengeance. Death, battered but unyielding, triumphed, ignoring Absalom's final plea for brotherhood and tearing his scythe from the Avatar's ruined chest. At the edge of the well, the Crowfather appeared, offering Death a terrible choice: to resurrect humanity or the Nephilim, knowing that choosing one would forever damn the other. Death, haunted by the memory of war, chose to redeem his brother and restore mankind to the balance, casting himself and the souls of the Nephilim into the well. Meanwhile, on Earth, war slew the Destroyer and broke the seventh seal, summoning the Four Horsemen: Death, Fury, and Strife. Death was revived and summoned to Earth, rejoining his siblings for whatever final reckoning awaits. Concerning Death's powers and abilities, Death is the mightiest of the Horsemen, his powers nearly limitless. He has superhuman strength, agility, and durability. Surpassing even war, Death can be impaled by Chaos Eater or Affliction and recover instantly. He can regrow limbs and heal wounds that destroy lesser beings. His weapon, Harvester, Death's signature shape-shifting scythe, transforms into any weapon and is attuned to his will. Death can wield any weapon: arm blades, bucklers, maces, axes, spears, and crafted legendary artifacts including the Grand Abominations and Nephilim's Respite, or Fury. Death's Reaper form transforms into a towering skeletal being, nearly invulnerable, wielding a gigantic scythe. In this state, Death can slay even the mightiest angels and demons with a single blow. His necromancy and magic: Death commands the dead, summons spirits and ghouls, conjures bone storms, shields, lightning, and drains life energy. His telekinesis can repel Samael, and manipulate weapons at a distance. Death Grip, Voidwalker, and Phasewalker, mystic abilities that allow Death to traverse space and time, creates portals and pull himself or objects across vast distances. His Soul Splitter ability allows Death to divide his spirit, fighting on multiple fronts. His Abyssal Armor, Ultimate Resilience, forged from the darkness between worlds and the Shadow Realm by the Mad Smith himself. Redemption, Strife's handgun, wielded by Death for devastating range combat. Supreme Tactician, Death's adaptability, intelligence, and will make him the greatest tactician among the Horsemen. Death's journey is a saga of cosmic tragedy and redemption. Born in Lilith's shadow, he slaughtered his own people, forged weapons that could unmake worlds, and then sealed them away to protect creation. He faced gods, angels, demons, and the abyss itself. He was the last judge at the end of all things, the Pale Rider, the Reaper, a being of both infinite mercy and implacable wrath. But Death's story does not end here. With the Horsemen reunited and the seventh seal shattered, new wars and reckonings await. In the ashes of creation, what secrets remain? What new destinies will Death forge in Darksiders 4 and beyond? If you hunger for more tales of apocalypse and redemption, join me for the next deep dive, where we will unveil the legend of Fury, the wildest and fieriest of the Horsemen. Like, share, and subscribe for more lore. Smash the hype button and become part of the legend. This has been Vigil from Video Game Lore, and I'll see you all in the next one.